Hi, I'm Georgie, and welcome back to the Ava Wellness podcast. If your wellness to-do list is never ending and you're overwhelmed by trends and information being thrown your way, then we are here to simplify it. So, if you're ready to own your health, keep listening. Today, we have James Middleton on the podcast. I'm so excited to pick his brains and get into the story and get into what he does. But he's a fitness coach, an entrepreneur, and he's a new dad. He's built a global community through cutting through the wellness noise, I'll call it, ditching fads, and teaching people how to train for life, not just aesthetics. So, hi, thanks for coming.
Hello. Yeah, thank you so much. Great to be here.
Yeah, well, I've got a million questions for you as per usual, but in particular, I just want to get into where your content is now. Obviously, like we've known each other through the industry for a while, and I've followed you for a long time, and your content's, I think, flipped. Though your messaging and everything that you stand for, and I'm here for it. Absolutely love it. How did you get to a place of you kind of like tell it how it is online, right? What change happened?
I think it's the longer I was in the industry for, and I've always been posting about, fitness, training, nutrition, but the longer I was there and the more people that were coming onto social media as like fitness coaches, brackets, because nowadays everyone can become an online coach without a qualification. And that's the real issue. You've got all these people now with platforms just spewing nonsense who have never had any kind of qualification in their life. And I think just as more of that came to the surface and, I just saw more of it and my followers started sending me more stuff to say, is this true? Can you, debunk this? I think that kind of steered my content towards the channel of just making sure that people are aware that there's a lot of nonsense and actually telling people how it really is and the truth, because especially in the female industry, which is where I've kind of moved into a lot with my audience and my clients, women are just taken advantage of in terms of, their insecurities. And the men's industry is also bad. You've got lots of this bro science and lots of these guys taking steroids who then say, they just eat lots of protein and are kind of influencing these young boys, pretending that they can get the physique that they have. But at the end of the day, everyone's, just trying to make money doing it. And I think for the women's side of things, it's just a lot more rife in terms of what's going on in the female fitness industry and how much, nonsense there is. So for me, it was just, I felt like it was my duty to debunk a lot of this stuff, whilst also obviously giving the right kind of information out. I don't just go around tearing other people down because I think that's shallow content. But it kind of just fell that way. And it's not all that I do now, but it definitely, I think people just need more truth and honesty, in the world that we live in, because there's just so much nonsense out there.
There's so much noise, right? And there's so much, one, misinformation, two, hot air, but also just so many people telling you what to do, that it's like your approach is super refreshing, I find. I'm not just saying that. I've been in the industry for 14 years, as have you. And it's just seeing that transition is wild, how it started and how it is now, right? From OG fitness.
Exactly. And you can imagine, if you're just, you're an average person who jumps onto social media after work at 7 p.m. and you're scrolling and you're someone who's trying to get in shape or trying to start looking after yourself. Oh my gosh. Like, can you imagine? You're just left. Like what you just have that like paralysis. You're like, what do I do? There's people telling me that I can't eat cereal, I can't eat porridge, but then I can't eat I can't drink orange juice, but then I have to train at this time. I have to train fasted, and you're just like, gosh, like where do I even start? So no wonder why people don't do anything, because they don't know what to do.
No, I know. And in terms of when you decide to speak about something, though, like what makes you think this is worth me speaking about? Because there's thousands of things that come out every day that I'm like, bollocks, shit.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes you think I need to speak about that? Why do you feel passionately about those specific things?
It's probably things that I think most people might be able to relate to. There's lots of little things which I think, okay, that's nonsense. But to be honest, like you also have to be an idiot if you believe that. Like I do say sometimes to people, use your own brain. If you think it's too good to be true, you have a brain yourself. You do have to kind of, ask the right questions yourself. You can't just follow everyone like a blind person. And I think that's where I go, okay, well, this I think is going to relate to a lot of people because I've had a lot of people talking to me about it personally, clients, etc. Often if I get the same kind of video sent or the same topic coming up, that's what I'll choose. But really, I mean, sometimes it can just be a personal thing. I have sort of, it's like a mini vendetta that I have against someone who says something. I'm like, no, this just doesn't sit right, and this has got to be debunked.
Give us an example of what grinds your gears then. What comes up?
So I had this, it was so funny. And also, by the way, when you step into this world of debunking other people, and I know, there's a lot of content now which it does kind of bore me a little bit, where all you get is fitness coaches just taking a video of someone else and just bringing them down. Like I said, I just think that that's not. I'm also a big believer in making content that genuinely actually like helps people and is positive and inspiring and things like that. But I had a big run in with this English woman. She's a bit older than me, and she's got kids and stuff. And she was walking around M&S, picking up like healthy food packets, going, rapeseed oil, oh look, rapeseed oil, don't eat
I
rapeseed
saw
oil.
it. I saw that.
And I just thought, oh, for the love of God. And I went in, but she had a massive army of women who just came barraging onto my page, and I was getting hundreds of DMs being like, "You're a this, you're a that, you're a twat, you have no idea what we're talking about." And it's funny because in the moment you get caught up in it a little bit, and you think, gosh, I need to respond to all these people and tell them they're wrong. But then, at the end of the day, like they'll believe what they believe. My followers valued me talking about that. I presented the science. I think that's the biggest thing. Like I always try and back what I'm saying up with evidence, with actual scientific evidence. And then people can't argue against that. And if they do, it's just, that they're just protecting their ego. So that was a funny one, and it went viral, and and she loved it, and she was, it became her whole thing for a few days, whereas I just posted the video, responded to a few comments, and then I was on to my next piece of content. Whereas she made it a whole thing. She was talking about it for days and days and days, and I thought it was funny. But I still think that her walking around demonizing a single ingredient when she has no idea what that is, I mean, that's damaging to women, because she has a big following, and all these women, these middle-aged women, are going to be going into M&S going, oh, I can't have this chicken salad because there's seagulls in it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I'm going to put you on the spot because I think you can handle it. But Joe Wicks and his killer protein. Sorry, I had.
Well,
Oh, I
I
had.
know, I know, and
I have my thoughts. But what are your? Go on. Let's do it. Let's go into it.
The thing with Joe Wicks is, I think he was very, very good at doing a specific thing of, during COVID, inspiring people to move, and, with kids, and that was fantastic. And I think he genuinely inspired so many people to just kind of what I do, go back to basics, simple, helping kids, fantastic. But I've always known with Joe Wicks that he just doesn't know that much about nutrition and about training and the methods behind it. I think he's a very surface level coach in that regard, which again fits what he was doing. But then him now stepping into, there was that other video he did about the sugar relapse. He's like, oh, I had a Jaffa cake or whatever it was. He's like, I've had a relapse, and got absolutely, battered for that. Quite rightly so, because he's basically saying to people, if you go and have a chocolate bar and you're trying to avoid sugar, then that's a bad thing. And that just creates really, really negative relationships with food. And yeah, the whole protein bar thing, I don't know if he's a bit lost, or he's just scrapping around for some cash. But it's damaging, because a lot of people follow him, and a lot of people like him and trust him, and will read that and think, oh, this is great. But yeah, someone needs to have a word with him.
And also the type of people that follow, we work with a lot of underprivileged communities. I'm not saying that's for everyone that follows him, but the type of people I suspect follow him are those who are beginners in fitness, right? And they're just starting their journey. They're not the elitist, with specific health and fitness goals and a wellness agenda and to-do list. They are the 85% who don't go to a gym.
Mm-hmm.
And to say that message to them, who are probably, I'm just taking a wild guess, on the lower end of the economic scale, right, is really toxic. I understand the messaging that he brought, but just the way it was delivered, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, super, super impressionable audience. And that's where, real damage gets done. And then, you're kind of undoing a lot of work that other people are doing. But, I mean, I always say to myself, you can't save the world. And sometimes people are going to do
You
silly
can try
things. And
though.
yeah, you can definitely try, but you're never going to save everyone.
No.
Yeah. So that was a shame, but honestly, not surprising.
No. And you just said you just nailed it actually. You said you like to strip it back to basics, but you've, correct me if I'm wrong, come from a rugby background, which isn't the basics of fitness, right? That is elite.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, with that, so I was on nutrition and training plans when I was about 15 years old.
Wow.
And I think like my transition into the fitness world, I wanted to be a rugby player. That didn't work out. I then went into, working for a corporate company, hated the 9 to 5, and knew that, everyone in the office would always come up to me and ask me questions about training, about nutrition. And I loved answering them and talking to people about it. And I thought, oh, I've got to do something with this. I feel like this is just my calling. And so that's when I went down the whole personal training route. So I've had background from a young age, but as a rugby player, it doesn't, you just get told what to eat to train and you're just sort of running into people. And that's it really. You don't think too much about it. But it's definitely an elite place to be. But then, you know, yeah, 99% of people don't eat and train like that and don't have to. And I think the sad thing is today is that simple doesn't sell. That's why people overcomplicate stuff. That's why people confuse their audiences and then say, hey, I know you're confused, but I've got the answer. So come join my 30-day, detox program or my, 27-day hormone balancing program, which I've just made on a pretty Canva with no
No.
credentials, no experience, no nothing. But I've made you insecure about the way you feel. And I told you that I've got the answer. Ka-ching. I mean, it's just everywhere.
Do you think that the majority of, I have to be careful what I say, businesses selling those kind of plans or selling products in the wellness industry pick on the vulnerable? Um,
Yeah, I think they know. I think many people have seen a pattern what works. They see confusion, they see insecurities, and they know that they can sell to these people by convincing them that what they've got is, right, and by essentially just bullshitting their way through their content. And like I said, there's a lot of very naive, impressionable people out there who quite rightly do believe these things because maybe they look up to how this person looks, or maybe they see the way this person is training and eating. But then these people aren't honest about what they're doing behind closed doors. They'll say, oh, I took this supplement and this is how I'm shredded. And so people go, oh, well, that sounds great. I want to do that, because everyone's looking for a quick fix. Everyone's looking for something straight away. So if someone can have something done in 30 days by taking a couple of pills, they're going to do it, and then they realize it doesn't work, and then this person sells them something else, and it's just it's a pretty bad trap. And the sad thing is there's no real regulation, on social media and Instagram. Like, I genuinely believe if you're a coach, you should have to submit like a personal training qualification at the very least, or just
I
some
agree.
sort of like certificate, because you've got people who are now building coaching businesses, online fitness businesses, who have never coached a person in their life. And that's where it's sad. And these poor people who get sucked into all this stuff, they just end up purely giving up on their health journey because just
Yeah.
nothing works.
I'm throwing this at you, but what do you think of AI coaching? Because you just said it, like there's people online creating like coaching businesses that don't
Yeah.
coach the human in their life.
Mm. I
What's your
think, I mean, I think AI is terrific for helping you streamline things in your business and taking away mundane tasks. I do not believe that AI will ever replace the want for a human to connect with a real human, and I've spoken about this with other coaches before, and there are these platforms where you can literally train an AI to speak to a client, in the way that they speak to you and all this stuff. But if, first of all, I'm sure that will happen, but if you're not disclosing to your clients that they're talking to an AI version of you, which no one's going to do, but if you're not doing that, then that makes you dishonest. But also, with our coaches, with our clients, like we're sending video messages to them, we're sending voice notes, like the human nature of anything is so important. And I don't think that will ever die out because, even more so now with technology everywhere, humans just want to connect with humans. That's why now, I don't know if you've seen, and I think going forward, there's going to be more and more of this, where there are now, like depulugging events where you would go to an event, like a social event or a dating network, and everyone puts their phones in a locker and you can only take your phone out once the event is over. And everyone is there socializing in a room because people are desperate to just get away from their phones and just connect. So I think we're going to see I know AI is blowing up, but we're going to see that shift with people wanting to just escape from it all.
Yeah, I've spoken to many like senior people and investors recently who said the pendulum is swinging back the other way. And I'm like, how the fucking you?
Yeah,
It's just like when you're talking about someone's health and well-being, the empathy is such an important. Me and you know full well, training like high profiles, high net worths, or vulnerable people. The empathy is almost the most important thing before you get into any exercise or any training program.
so true.
You just can't. You can't replace that. You can never replace that.
No, and then and the connection that you build with a client and that human connection, yeah, that's invaluable. And that's another thing, the reason why there are so many people coaching is because you can just create programs and nutrition plans using technology and AI and stuff, and you don't need any skills. But the people, the coaches who are differentiating themselves and breaking away from the crowd are the people who genuinely understand how to communicate that with clients. You can't teach that. You just have to learn that through experience.
That's what it's being, do you agree being a PT is just as much qualifications as it is knowing how to handle people and
100%.
their emotions and what they're going through? Talking about that, when you get backlash from being so truthful online and unapologetically, bold, I know you're pretty resilient and I know like your story has made you, we can get into that, super resilient, but does it ever sort of impact you? Does it ever make you feel a certain way, or do you brush it off?
I think, and maybe this is the sad part of being on social media and speaking the truth and putting yourself out there. Well, first of all, I always say to myself, no one, no one is ever going to agree with everything you say. So if you walk through life knowing that, then you're like, okay, as we know with, you could cure world hunger and people are still going to hate you. So that's kind of part and part of it. And that's kind of reassuring. I think the second thing is you can't take anything that you do personally when people say that to you. And I think, nowadays online, people are so persistent on sticking with their belief and protecting their ego that people will die on that hill rather than just look at another side of an argument and maybe change their mind.
Yeah.
And it's insane. You see these people, and I've sometimes had like a couple of conversations with them in the comments. They just don't budge, and they're more concerned about protecting their self-belief. But that's not how you grow. That's not how you learn. I used to, when I came to America, I used to think seed oils were the worst thing in the world because I went down that rabbit hole, and I used to walk around supermarkets going, don't eat this, it's got seed oils, like that lady.
Yeah.
And then I changed, and then a year later I completely changed my mind because I read the science. And I think, changing your mind and learning and growing, that's how we develop as humans, and how we get more data. And people are just stuck in their ways. And I think you can see that very quickly. And, if people start in supporting, I might look, it comes from a place of, unhappiness in their life. And look, don't get me wrong, we're human beings. We're not robots. I do sometimes read stuff and feel stuff, but you just have to I think you just learn to very quickly just like sweep it under the rug and move forward, because I think at the end of the day, I just think in my head, like I know that I'm doing this that's coming from a place of helping people, and that's all that really matters. But I guess, well, like I said at the start, the sad thing is that I feel like I've sort of walk around with a slightly like, bulletproof vest on. And I think I'm the way I describe it is you've got to have a hard shell on the outside, but you're super soft inside. So, as long as you can kind of keep that balance, then it's the only way to deal with it.
How did you get that hard shell? How did you learn that?
Honestly, I think that when I lost my younger brother when he was 19 years old, I think that really drove me to dig deep and look inward. And I think when you go through losing a loved one, especially a younger sibling, when they weren't meant to go, it I did develop a pretty hard shell from that. I mean, I definitely got a lot more soft as well, which is a good thing. I think I started being a lot kinder to people, treating people a lot better, because I was a bit of an asshole when I was like 26, 25 years old. I was like, not an asshole. I was still a nice guy, but I was a little bit selfish and I used to judge people a lot. And I think that massively shifted when that happened, because I realized how precious life was and how we should really just be kind to everyone, whoever we meet. Because my brother very much was embodied that. But sadly, I think because of that, now it takes a lot to upset me, because that was such a big thing in my life that upset me so much. So now everything else compared to that doesn't really feel a lot. And that's why, social media is not even, it's like, it's not real life.
No,
It's not real life. Like, as soon as you put your phone down and you step away, you just remember, oh my God, the world, you might be thinking you've done a post, or everyone's going crazy, like that Seedor post, and all these people are commenting. I put my phone away for a day and I'm like, oh my God, life is continuing
life is
outside of,
outside. Yeah.
but it's just where your mind focuses, and you think that the whole world is looking at this one post and screaming at you and sending you hateful messages. But all you have to do is put your phone down and not look at it for a day, and then suddenly everything's good again.
It's crazy how many people live their life through what they're told on socials, like in terms of what supplements to take or what exercise to do, or even their friendships are now on social media, which there's pros and cons to everything like that. But at the same time, this is why connection in real life and humanity connection is dying, because we're so distracted over here, but in particular by wellness trends. And you just mentioned you went down a rabbit hole. I know your business is set up to sort of protect people from going down those rabbit holes and take them on a journey that's trusted, right? How does that work with people? So you get a client on, and how do you sort of stop them going down, you must take these supplements all day, every day to be a healthy person? Or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, sadly, we get a lot of women that have come from programs or things that have been very toxic. And yeah, we get a lot of women saying they've done these like crazy boot camps, these crazy diets that have restricted, that's ruined their relationship with food. And I don't want to call it, broken, but there's definitely been some damage done there. And I see that a lot with a lot of women that come on board. And so I think from the very outset, we just strip everything back, and we kind of just say, look, this is a blank slate. Forget everything you've ever been told and everything
Wow.
you've ever thought. And we're going to just start from almost as if you're a kid learning to walk again. And we're going to do the very simple, basic things from day one, just for the next couple of weeks. Let's say, for example, how many steps you do a day? 5,000. Okay. So we're going to do 6,000 steps a day for the next 2 weeks. And that is all I want you to focus on, as well as making sure that at least one meal you have in your day has a big portion of fruit on it or veg. And that is like as simple as we do it with these people. Now, of course, they've got their training programs and stuff, but you realize that people just need to start rewiring that these very basic things are the things that are going to make the biggest difference to their life, not the supplements. And the women are always going, oh, should I take this? Should I take this? I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't need to think about that yet, because you're talking about the 1% that you think is going to be giving you 70% of the results. But we've got to flip that on its head. We've got to look at the 70%, sorry, the 70% of the things that are going to move the needle the most. So yeah, it's kind of just, it's helping people unlearn stuff and then relearn stuff, which again is all about, how you communicate with people. And a lot of it is so like mindset focused and psychological.
Yeah, it's like rebuilding the foundation before you put anything extra on top.
Yeah. And if most people, and this is what I said earlier about simple doesn't sell. If most people just did an extra 1,000, 2,000 steps a day, got outside for 20 minutes, slept for one more hour every night, went to bed on time, lifted weights 2 or 3 times a week, and just really focused on putting whole foods on their plate, not all the time, but just like, if most people did that, even if they did all those things 70 to 80% of the time, in 6 months, they'd be a whole different person.
Different person, yeah.
But that doesn't, but you say that on Instagram or you say that on social media, that
Not
doesn't
sexy.
get people's attention. And the sad thing is with social media, it is all about grabbing people's attention. These hooks that you have to do the first 3 seconds, you are fighting for people's attention, because all of us have just been so sapped of it with so much stuff going on and just scrolling. If you say that to people, they're like, that sounds so simple, it's boring. No, I want to find something that, it's weird. It's almost people like look for something that's like harder I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
strange. It's a
Well,
strange.
it's not quick. The thing is, stripping back to basics isn't quick. It's rebuilding, so it's
Yeah.
gonna take time. How do you think that message is better portrayed then? If obviously social media is saturated and there's like, take this pill to do this in 10 days and do this to do this in 20 days. Like, how do we get that message across?
Well, I guess that's a $1 million question, because if you could, then everyone would be doing it if it meant that they were, helping people, and then maybe also, getting clients. I think the biggest thing with social media is put information out there that is going to capture people's attention in the right way for the right reasons. And then for me, it's all about, look, I don't like, I'll talk about this stuff here and there, but if people come through my coaching business, that's when I'll get into the nitty gritty with them about simplifying things. And not everyone's going to come through my coaching business, or not everyone can afford it, or whatever. But I think in terms of kind of competing for space, you can't. There's a part of me that's like, you have to play the game a little bit, but there's also a part of me that people will follow you and connect with you, if they value what you're saying, and the right people will come, and you can't force that. You can just do and stay true to your message and your values, and that's how you grow. And that's something that I've been doing for a long time. And there's been periods of, like it being very slow and stagnant. And then, you might do one or two videos that absolutely pop off, and suddenly you gained, 500,000 followers. And then, those people are there for the right reasons, because everything's simple. So, I don't think there's a kind of black and white answer to that, but I just think if coaches keep, or people just keep putting out honest messages, that's all that we can do, really.
Yeah. Quick pause before we dive back in. If you're looking to truly support your mind and body every day, then you need to check out the Arbor app. I created Arbor to give you round-the-clock access to expert-led workouts, holistic wellness tools, and real mindset support, all in one place. Whether you're starting out or if you're deep into your wellness journey, Arbor meets you where you're at. Download the app today, and we're giving you a 2-week free trial to start moving, breathing, and living better. Now back to the episode. I don't know what it's like in the US, but I feel really strongly in the UK that it should be like, we should have more education at school about proactive and preventative health. I didn't get that. I went to an all-girls school. I got nothing. And just, it's half to do with the parents, it's half to do with the school, right? You can't blame the school entirely, but there's not enough education on how to actually look after yourself in a preventative way. And obviously that's a hard task, but I really feel that should be changed.
Yeah, there should just be some sort of compulsory module that you do, even if it's for, 1 year, that just teaches you about the basics. Hey, when you leave school, or when you live by yourself and you're cooking,
Yeah.
this is the kind of things that you need to look out for. And I mean, but it's crazy, because even becoming a personal trainer and doing all those qualifications, you don't really learn about the things that are going to be applied to people to help them. You just learn about, the muscles in the body. And I'm like, I don't even know half the muscles in the body anymore. I forgot, and I've never had to talk about them. But, it's just like, it's shifting that into stuff that's just more applicable and
lifestyle based, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you find running a business? You've run a business for a long time now. The ups and downs of that I'm well aware of. How do you find it?
I love it. I think it takes a certain type of person to do it, and to continue doing it and be consistent with it. I think the most incredible thing about running a business is just how much you realize you don't know, how much you're terrible at, which is then when you realize you should employ other people who are better at it than you, because you try and do everything all at once at the start, and you realize that that's not sustainable. But just also how, I think just like with life, is like, you can't, in business, just with anything, you can't always have complete control over everything. And you have to be able to, give that away, but also understand that it's not, your business isn't meant to be perfect. Your life is not meant to be perfect. Your fitness journey is not meant to be perfect. There's always going to be this. And I think it makes it, there's a beauty in it. There's always this like imperfection and messiness. And you just have to lean into that. Cause I'm quite a like,
Love that. Yeah.
quite a sort of like, have my ducks in a row. Everything has to be good. And anytime something went a little bit messy, or I didn't have control over it, it would stress me out. And then I realized you just have to lean into this lack of, this messiness. I like the word messy. and kind of go with the flow. But I think that the thing with it is, businesses evolve and they change, and yeah, the downs are nuts, the ups are insane. But it's, if you're doing it for the right reasons, then I think you're always gonna do well with it. I think sometimes people step into business for the wrong reasons, and that's why they don't really last, or they find it incredibly challenging. But I mean, I have to give credit to the coaches that I have on my team, and like my team. I mean, they're incredible. And I think one thing I've really learned about business is if you look after your staff well, and you really, really make sure that they're happy, then you have a great business, because that is the base of your business, right? I might be the front man and I might have grown it to where it is, but actually those guys are the ones that make it what it is. And a lot of the coaches and people have been with me, almost since day one, which has been awesome. So
Yeah, they're the fuel, aren't they?
that's important, and like, for example, I mean, the US is nuts. They work so hard here. It's insane. Our clients are just always burnt out. They're not sleeping. They don't take any holiday. It's just work, 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 work. It is insane. And I read this thing that apparently if they say that if Americans stopped working in September, they would still have been more productive than Brits who had been working until December. Like, that's just like how it's just a different mindset here. I know that was probably fabricated and made up somewhere, but it's more just a sense of really, like, people live to work here. They don't work to live. And so from a business perspective, it's great. I think America's the best country in the world to be in from that part, because with that, people are so like supportive of each other, the American dream. The difference here is that if the economy was going down the drain, everyone would start buying American products, encouraging each other. You say you run a business here, and people are like, "Oh, what's your business? Oh, let me introduce you to this person, this person." In the UK, it's like, "Oh, you run a business? That must be tough. Oh, God, I could do that." It's just, it's so negative. And here, people celebrate wealth. And I know it's very materialistic in America and very consumer driven, like to the level that you won't even understand until you're here. But if you buy a nice car here, you buy a nice house, your friends are like, "Oh man, that's awesome, that's great. Oh, let me go for a spin." Again, in the UK, you buy something nice, people are like, "That's a bit flashy, isn't it?" And it's insane. It's insane, and it's that's why it's such a great place to be. But I think from a business perspective, again, I'm very much like, I don't believe in work-life balance when you're starting a business, or especially in your 20s. I think if you're in your 20s and you're saying, I want work-life balance, but I want to build a business, you're a fool. It's either going to take you 10 times longer, or you're just not going to succeed. You probably know that as well. With starting business, you just have to, there's periods where you're just like in the trenches, just grinding, and it sucks. But I think here, the nice thing is everyone supports you with what you're doing. And it's such a good environment to be in for that reason. But on the flip side, they just work so hard here that a lot of them are stressed and burnt out, and
That's the thing with hustle culture that I have a problem with. Like, yes, I agree with you. When you're in a startup, you are in the trenches. It's nuts. It's hectic. It's gritty. You have to give your all to it, otherwise it's not going to work. What's the stat? Like 5% of businesses make it, if that. But at the same time, you have to look after yourself, because you can't run a business if you're unwell. That's what I say.
And I think, no, 100%. And I think throughout building my business, even during the times when I was doing like 18-hour days, I would always still spend an hour training. I would always still make sure I'm eating healthy food. Yeah. Yes, sure, sometimes sleep would be sacrificed a little bit, but I would always make sure that my fitness stayed at the very, very top. You're right, because when that starts to drop, then you're sacrificing health for wealth. And then just like we have a lot of clients that come on board, they've spent 20 years building these insane businesses, super successful, but they are so unhealthy because they've been sacrificing their health for it. And now they're like, I don't even care about the wealth. I can't walk up the stairs without getting out of breath. And then I'm like, then what's the point? You can have 100 problems in the world until you have a health problem, and then you have a health problem. And that's like the crux of it.
Yeah, exactly. Would you rather be a millionaire and be very unwell, or would you rather be less wealthy but really well? I know which one I'd choose.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
A business.
Exactly. But the problem is people borrow from the bank of health and sacrifice sleep and live in this stress state too long, like to a point where at the time they don't feel it, but then boom, it comes crashing down. And then suddenly they've got all this health debt, which they end up spending the rest of their life making up. And who cares if they've got a Ferrari out front and a massive house and all this money? Like they literally don't care because they're spending hours and hours going to doctor's appointments and taking medication and not being able to run around with their grandkids. And to me, that's just,
That's a
not the,
brilliant saying, borrowing from the bank of health. Bloody hell, I love that.
yeah,
I
you
love
can use
that.
it. You can
Thank
use
you.
it.
I'm taking it. I'm taking it, putting it on Arbor. No. So your business, has it changed since you've moved to the US then? Has it evolved, grown?
Yeah, it's grown a lot since I've come here, and the reason why I think is because first of all, obviously, it's a much bigger country. There's a lot more people here. The second thing is because of that, and the UK is not far behind, but there is a grave obesity problem in America,
Yeah.
and that's all down to things like you have to drive everywhere. I've never spent so much time in my car. It's insane. Walking cities are not designed to be walked around. The food is insane here. There's just fast food on every single corner. There's healthy food, but you have to buy it and cook it at home. Like we cook 90% of our meals at home. Otherwise you're eating, easily 5,000 calories a day if you're staying out. The portion sizes are nuts. So all of this just makes it very, very difficult to keep
Right.
weight off and stay fit and healthy. And I actually gained weight when I got here because my activity levels plummeted and the calories I was eating rose up. I would say though that within that, people are definitely becoming more health conscious, and I think the space for coaching here is needed more than ever for people. And with that, I saw a big increase in my business for women wanting to get in shape, especially like postpartum, and we have a lot of postpartum women. We have a lot of women who have kids but also work full time. Like I said, it's very normal for women here. A lot of women work full time whilst having kids, and everything, just because it's also just very expensive place to be. Yeah, it's great, but with that presents so many challenges. These being a mother and working, I mean, like hats off to these mums. They're like superheroes to me. I mean, I see them, like some of them are working 2 jobs. They've got 3 kids. It's just nuts. And they're still losing weight, training. And that's when I'm like, if this woman can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Like anyone can do it with the right grit and determination. So that's been good. But Americans love that they'll pay for a service. That's the thing. That's the difference. Like here, people will
Yeah.
pay a lot of money if they're getting good service, no matter what that kind of service is, which is, obviously with the tipping culture here, which is wild. That's a separate thing. But people are happy to do it. You valet your car, someone drives your car off, brings it out front for you, you tip them $5, $10 every time, but you're happy to because they've done something for you. So I think with the coaching space, people are happy to pay someone money if they're helping them get the job that they want done.
Yeah. That's so interesting. What's going to be the impact of GLP-1s, do you think, on your business?
So my view of it has changed massively. At the start, I was thinking, this is terrible. It's just going to be a quick fix. It's not good for people. It's a very strong drug. People are taking it irresponsibly. That part's still true. I am a big advocate of GLP-1s when they are used correctly. So first of all, you and like with any drug, there's always a black market for it, but you have to have the right guidance from a doctor. You have to go in for your regular checkups, do all of that stuff. But I think the most important thing is you have to be doing the training and the nutrition alongside it, because we know how much weight you lose on these drugs. They are so powerful, and if you're not lifting weights, you are losing so much muscle mass and bone density. It's insane, and then you become worse off. And if you're not sorting out the lifestyle part, then it's just a means to an end that will come circling back again, and you'll just be worse off because you've got less muscle, poor bone density, and you'll just go back up in weight. So I think it's saving people's lives. A lot of people that I talk to, because our clients are on them, and we're actually going to start working with doctors to give people GLP-1s if they really need it, especially I think especially the people who just have so much food noise. Apparently there's a lot of people saying it's really helped with food noise, which is huge for people. But especially people who have a lot of weight to lose, I can think it can be a really great tool initially, with the idea that you're always going to come off it and then, get back into a good routine. There's side effects that happen to some people, but there's been enough research so far that the side effects have been few and far between.
Yeah. I have a similar opinion, and we're just working, which that's what the pharmacy for a behavior change course alongside someone taking a GLP-1 CBT course, because it's like, I agree with you. You take them, that whatever you feel about GLP-1s, they're a good head start for people who really need it. Like, I started like you, what on earth is this quick fix mess?
Mm,
But I do see the benefit for certain category of people. But the problem is if you're not changing your behavior and the way that you look at habits and the way that you look at food and your relationship with food and exercise, then you're just going to boomerang back on them the whole time. It's effing expensive. Don't know what it's like in the US, but it's so expensive for the average
mm.
person. And ultimately, you're not addressing the root cause, are you?
Yeah, and you don't want to become dependent on a drug for your life, for the rest of your life, because you're right, it is expensive. Some insurance companies here, you know, the health system here is wild with all the insurance stuff that happens, and some insurance covers it, but most of it doesn't. But I think they're trying to, the big company, because it's a Danish company, isn't it? They're trying to make it cheaper for people here, but we'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
I think this company is now one of the wealthiest companies in the world.
I'm not sure that's a good thing or a bad thing if they make it. But anyway, yeah,
Well, I
good.
think I think maybe for the people who desperately need it, you know, the sad thing is there's a lot of people who want to lose a couple of pounds and they jump on it, and I think that's taking away from the people who really need it. But again, that goes back in just to this whole thing of quick fix, wanting to be skinny and small rather than strong and fit, you know, especially for women.
Yeah.
Um, so
I know. Well, okay, we could go on about that forever, but I want to ask you about fatherhood. You've just become a dad. Congratulations. So
thank
excited.
you. Yeah.
New chapter, complete overhaul, I can imagine, of your life mentally, physically, emotionally. What's surprised you? What's the transition like? How's it going?
I think, well, at the start, the first like week when you're home is just carnage because they're so, I mean, luckily Daisy was born a 9 pound baby, so she was a big baby. I think she was 9 pounds and 2 ounces. I think she was the heaviest baby on the day, and she was born on the 9th of September, which is the most popular birthday of the year. So she out of the 120 babies was the heaviest. So she came out a champion, which I was over the moon about. And but that made it easier because it meant that she was slightly bigger, so she could sleep a little bit longer and eat a little bit more, which just, you know, you need all the advantages you can get. So she early on was pretty good with that, but the first week was just nuts, you know, where you're up like every hour and a half, 2 hours, and then you realize that when you're up and you know she's being fed, you then like you change them, you soothe them, and by the time that's happened, you sort of look at your watch and you're like, oh, she's got to be fed in about half an hour. So you know, you go back to sleep, and then so that was tough. The first week was just chaos. But then I think, I mean, I have to give her so much credit to my wife, Shannon, because she has just been incredible with her. She has been, I mean, she has made my life so much easier. She has just blown me away with how amazing she's been. And obviously, you know, as a woman going through all the changes with your body, the postpartum journey, you know, it's just, I mean, seeing her give birth, it immediately just like levels, you know, your wife up even more, and it just, I mean, I work with women on a daily basis, but it truly is just so incredible what the female body does and goes through. And I think naturally having a daughter as well, I think I've become like a massive softie, but it's also just increased my respect for women so much that go through this journey. It really is incredible. And as dudes, I think sometimes, you know, you do feel a little bit helpless, which can sometimes make you feel like, oh, like what's my role here? But, you know, you have to just keep reminding yourself, you know, doing the dishes, the laundry, the nappy changing, the diaper changing, you know, all these little things do help. But no, it's been the most incredible thing. And actually, you know, you do realize that when you don't have kids, gosh, you have a lot of free time, and gosh, I wasted
Really?
that free time. Yeah, it's
Oh,
nuts. I think now, and even now, because you know they sleep a lot. The first, you know, she's 2 months old now, but you know, the first 4 or 5 weeks they're just sleeping, eating, pooping. But now she's starting to kind of, you know, see our faces, recognize them, getting little smiles out. She's making these little noises, and it's just like I just can't tell you how incredible it is. And I think, you know, especially being on social media, it's so nice coming off social media and just like pouring time and energy into something that is just completely, you know, off of it. I mean, that's been amazing. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind, and I'm sure it will continue. I mean, my wife wants like 4 or 5 kids, and I mean that's her. So so we'll
What
see.
a woman. What a
Yeah,
woman.
yeah. I mean, I want a big family too, but we're very fortunate that we both have our own businesses and we can
Yeah.
work from home. I will say that because again, there are people here, there are women here in America. You have to go back to work after 12 weeks. You're not even, yeah, like 12 weeks, women go back into work here, more or less, right? And then obviously there's a lot of men that go into their 9 to 5 jobs. That we're very blessed that we can be at home, and it has made it much easier. I'm very aware of the privilege and the luck that we have with that, because it makes it easier. But I can't imagine the people who have to go off to work and come back and take them from daycare. I mean, that must be a whole different challenge. So we're fortunate in that regard.
Mm. Do you think it's shifted your identity? Do you think you've had an identity change? A lot of people talk about women. All my friends are having babies right now, and they're all struggling with that big shift in identity. They don't know who they are. And does that happen to men as well? Did that happen to you?
Yeah, because people talk about it, and I can understand. For women, it's huge. I think for a woman, I will say this, because a woman, especially if you're breastfeeding, you're with your baby a lot more, and you have that kind of connection because they are literally dependent on you for food,
Yeah.
and you're doing a lot more. I think for a woman, well, what I said about my point of being sometimes as a man, you think, oh, what's my role here? The baby's too young to really like recognize. I mean, she recognizes me now as someone, as a familiar face, but it's like, what's my role here? And I think men, I read this stat that 1 in 10 men suffer from partum depression. Obviously not from a kind of hormonal perspective, but that I think it comes from this identity shift, and people talk about it, and everyone's like, yeah, obviously your identity changes, but you don't. It's one of those things you have to go through it and feel it
Yeah.
yourself. And there's been times where I'm kind of like, right, so I'm a dad now, but I'm still a business owner. I need to pour my time into this, but I've got my daughter and I need to help my wife. And it is like because it's such a shift in your day-to-day life and you don't have that routine. And as humans, we are creatures of habit and routine. It's how a lot of us thrive and feel comfortable and safe. When stuff gets like thrown left, right, and center, and things are kind of, going back to that word like messy and chaotic, but it's a lot more messy and chaotic. You do, like, I've had a few moments where I've thought, like, what am I doing any of this now for? Because I sometimes look at my daughter, I'm like, you are the only thing right now, as well as my wife, that truly matters to me. Like, you are my entire life. And so I think, like, what's my business? Like, what am I doing this Instagram stuff for? Like, who, all these like likes and comments and these people sending me, rude messages. God, I've got this like amazing little human that I've made. None of that matters, but it does matter because it's my job. So it's like,
Yeah.
you're toying with these things. And it has been, I won't lie, it's been hard sometimes, especially then when you throw, sleep deprivation in and all that kind of stuff. But again, I think as a man, and I can say this, it's not, we don't have to also battle with the physical changes that we're going through, which is, as a woman, that just adds a whole new layer of,
Yeah.
stuff on you, which
Yeah.
again is just so much respect for women who go through this journey and kind of do it all, especially with the modern day women now. There's so much more that a woman needs to do. Back in the day, a woman would, sit in a little hut, hold their baby, and the dads would go out and find the food, and you come back, you sit around the fire. Whereas now most women are working, they've got this, they've got this, they've got this. There's all this other extra pressure on them to be like that. So it's a hard time. Yeah.
Yeah. Has your definition of well-being changed since becoming a dad?
I think it's changed since my own fitness journey has evolved,
Right.
and and through my content. I wouldn't say it's changed so much becoming a dad. I mean, I think that I think most men should spend 6 months when a woman is pregnant. I think that is a time for a man to just get in the best shape of his life before he has a kid, because it
Really?
is, yeah, because, or at least like a man should try and get in the best shape of his life before he has a kid, because when you have a kid, it does make it so much harder. You're tired. Like, it's hard anyway, training and working out and eating healthy, but when you have something else that you're then looking after, and then you know, let's say you have multiple, it is much harder. And so it's harder when you built it as a habit. If it's not a habit, I can't imagine how difficult it is to kind of start that journey when you have a kid. Which is why, you know, I try and always encourage people to start as soon as you can. But I think, I mean, well-being for me, it used to be, you know, not drinking from plastic bottles, never touching seed oils, you know, going into infrared saunas and all this kind of like fugazi stuff. Whereas for me now, I genuinely think like the definition of well-being, if I was to say in a sentence, it would be the pursuit of health without sacrificing your own happiness. Because I think also a lot of people trying to become healthy and are on these journeys are miserable. And that comes from maybe the mindset of, you know, restrict, you know, lose. And that's unenjoyable. You know, working out to burn calories, like, you know, you're a hamster on a wheel. That stuff just doesn't prevail. And so I think for me, it's like becoming this healthy person while still being happy and living a life and kind of striking that balance, which I think if you can master is like the ultimate sign of well-being.
And other than training, because obviously that's an exercise, that's your thing. What's the one thing that keeps you mentally well? Obviously, in this season of life with sleep deprivation, new changes happening, what would you say? Is it your wife? Is it your
Yeah, honestly, genuinely, just being present
wow?
with whatever I'm doing. So whether that's and I've really worked on that hard because again, especially being on social media, I'm sure you find this as well, is that, you know, you can often like live in this other world. And so then when it comes to real life, you're just thinking about that other world and thinking about content and posting and if you run a business, you know, your clients and oh this and your staff and all that stuff. But it's actually like I've been working so hard on now when I'm at home cooking, I'm like my phone is away. I'm listening to I'm in the moment cooking that food, and then I'm eating that food, and then I'm talking to my wife, and I'm listening. I'm actually listening to her. If I'm with, you know, Daisy, like I'm not scrolling on my phone, just like holding her in my arms. I mean, sometimes that happens. You know, if she falls asleep and I've got nothing to do, I'm not going to sit there for 2 hours while she's there. I mean, I could put her down, but I don't want to. But you know, just trying to be as present as possible, and that has helped my mental health so much. Just like focusing on the here and now, because yeah, it's so easy to get distracted these days with technology and you know, stuff to keep us entertained.
God, thank you for saying that, because I honestly think that we don't live. We've forgotten how to actually live. Like our phone and the digital ecosystem that we are surrounded with um, is all consuming. We live this like other life, as you were saying earlier, and we've forgotten how to actually just be, like look at
Yeah,
the trees or look at where you are or breathe properly or talk to a human, you know?
yeah, no, and that's not, you know, and that's not. I know sometimes people hear that and they think, oh, that's so like, you know, yogi sort of spiritual, but oh my gosh, like now I notice, you know, and this is what I try and do as well, is if I'm waiting in line for something, or there's a moment where I have to like not do nothing, instead of getting my phone out and checking an email, because there is always something to do.
Always.
I might just stand there and you look at any old person, they are just being, they're
I
just there,
know.
just sitting with it. And there's something so magical about that. And I look at them and I'm like, gosh, like you must be so calm inside because you don't have this dependency on just keeping your mind entertained all the time.
I honestly worry about the next generation and their sort of ability to be still for even 2 minutes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, let's finish up. We could talk for hours, but with a quick fire, I think, because I could
Okay, let's do
question
it.
you forever about the fitness and wellness industry. But what's next for you professionally and personally? Obviously, new dad, but what comes next for James?
Professionally, just I think always, you know, my goal with the kind of my main pillar that I work on is just growing my coaching business, you know, just trying to help more and more and more people and helping people improve their lives the right way, the sustainable way. That's always a goal. And the Coach James Club is, you know, continuing to grow. So that's kind of on a professional level. I mean, I'm currently building a course because I do want to start helping other coaches, you know, build their
Hi.
businesses, because I think there's a lot of coaches there who are lost and don't know what to do. And if I could join a course 6 years ago that could tell me everything I needed to know, I would 100% take that, because it would save me hours and hours and hours. So that's something that I'm working on as another project. I think personally, truly just, stepping into this role and I know this sounds cliche, but I genuinely mean it, of just, being as best of a father and a husband as possible. I think naturally I have also found that with a daughter, you can pour so much energy into her and love into her, but actually, being there for my wife and still
So important.
us as a couple, we were a couple before we had our baby,
Yeah.
and I was an individual before I met Shannon. So it's like you have to pour into these pillars as well, those other pillars. Otherwise, if that crumbles, it becomes very hard. So I think, still trying to be a great husband. And then I think personally, yeah, just continuing to walk through this, crazy life, just being the best person possible. I mean, there's not too much. I won't bore you with like the little details of my personal life, but I think those two things, I mean, those pillars are kind of really important.
And continuing to help women with authenticity, right, is a big thing.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I guess on a professional level with that, I think continuing to be a voice for women, even though I'm a male, I sometimes also get stick from other women saying, well, you don't have a uterus, so I'm not going to listen to you because you have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, I'm not here to tell you I know how you feel as a woman and what you're experiencing as a woman, but I can tell you like objectively and scientifically what your body is going through and how to make changes based on that. So I think I'll always stand for what's right for women, because I think again women are massively underrepresented. Isn't no, that's not even a word. Oh yeah, underrepresented.
Under No, you've thrown me now. I know that word.
Underrepresented. That's the one. Underrepresented. Yeah. So that's huge. That's huge for me. And then just continuing to cut through, all the nonsense that keeps popping up, and just making women just really feel confident and safe and comfortable with, their health.
Yeah, the problem with this gender specific things, everyone's an individual. So yes, you can be a woman and talk about women in general, but each of those women are individuals. So it doesn't matter what gender you are. Like, you have to take everyone as a complete individual.
Exactly. So well said. So well said. Yeah, because every woman, especially every woman, is hugely different.
Yeah, completely different. Okay, I'm going to gun to the head. One wellness myth that you would like to bust right now. What is on the top of your head that is absolute hot air at the moment?
Oh, I've got about 6 in my head. I'm gonna have to just pick one. Okay, and I know that I think you do Pilates, don't you? Or you're a Pilates instructor.
Don't come at me for Pilates right now.
I'm not coming at you, because my mum's a Pilates instructor.
Oh, is she?
Yeah. So I love Pilates. I think it's fantastic. However,
okay.
recently, the last kind of year, like Pilates has blown up, which has been fantastic, and there's loads of people doing it, especially women. But Pilates, you have to combine, and I think doing any exercise is great, but I think especially as women, you have to lift weights alongside doing Pilates.
No, totally agree.
Because and there's a lot of people saying, well, no, I do Pilates 3 times a week, and again, that's great, but it's not. You're not building muscle in Pilates. You're fine tuning, as the kind of the stabilizing muscles and those little core muscles, which is why you often feel very sore after a Pilates session. I mean, I can't move my abs when I do Pilates, but steering away from true traditional structured strength training is damaging, because women need muscles, they need that bone health, and I think sacrificing that to do Pilates can lead to problems further down the line.
Yeah, I think there's a big now you're going to get me twisted on. There's what is the word? Representation of Pilates.
Yeah.
I agree with you. You need to do strength training as a woman. However, if you do the right sort of Pilates with dumbbells, reformer is resistance training, as you know, like it's weighted resistance training. There is a sort of muscle strength element that can be to Pilates. However, a lot of people see Pilates as the very like mobility centered, lying on a mat, breathing, which is great if you enjoy it, but it's not strength training. So I agree with you in your concept.
Yeah.
Strength training is the number one most important thing for women in particular. However,
and that should never be replaced. And even walking is great, but it's just not enough. Everyone, no matter who you are, needs to pick up some heavy iron a few times a week.
Heavy iron.
That sounded very bro science.
Yeah, it did.
Lift heavy iron, bro.
That was the old
Yeah.
school James coming out.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 more. What is one thing that instantly lifts your mood? And you're not allowed to say your wife or your daughter because that's probably it.
House music.
What the fuck?
Listening to house music.
Didn't
Genuinely,
expect that from you.
I could have the worst day ever if I put on like a naughty little house tune.
Not
Then
country. Now you live in Nashville.
no, it's something about like the beat for me. I've always been a house music lover. Like Ibiza is one of my favorite places on earth. You know, I could dance in those nightclubs for days on end. That always puts me in a good mood.
Brilliant. Your go-to wellness dad wellness hack. Said that in a weird way.
It's not really a hack, but as like anytime you wake up, it can be 4 a.m, it could be 6 a.m, whenever you start your day, depending on what your baby's been doing. Hydrate, caffeinate, sunlight, and you'll have energy all day.
Yeah, love that. Simple. And we always finish this podcast with your number one wellness tip or message to give to the next guest. So it's just one thing. It could be really, really simple. Mine, for example, is always to put on music because it just takes me to another place. It's not house music, sorry, but it's something.
Country music.
It just takes, it's Zach Brown Band, sorry. And just takes me out of stress and life. What's your hack? What's your message?
If you are feeling overwhelmed, tired, stressed, fed up, go for a 20-minute walk without your phone and come back and you will be a completely new person. Whatever problems you have, I know that sounds so silly. Like people laugh at me when I say that, and I tell my clients, I'm like, go for a 20-minute walk. I don't care if it's raining. That might be better. Make it more emotional. And yeah, I can't tell you how insane like it is when you just step away from everything and you do that and move your body and you come back. So the 20-minute walk to solve most of life problems is great.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you so much. I could have spoken to you for hours. I'm so, as you know, interested in the fitness industry and how it's evolved and how it's changed and how everyone's lost their way, I think, a little bit. But I really appreciate your time. Guys, I'll link everything James below, his coaching business, his Instagram. Please go check it out because I just love the cutting through the BS that you're doing at the moment. It's very entertaining and very, educational. So yeah, I'll leave everything below. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks. Yeah, great to chat.
Yeah, and see you guys next time. Bye.